going on, everybody? It's Frito here for your Overwatch Big News Roundup. The summer games have been announced. Lucioball makes a return. There's also a handful of buffs and nerfs that are lingering in limbo right now that we're trying to decipher when they're landing. Hammond comes to ranked play. Overwatch-themed Nerf toys coming next year. New Overwatch League teams and other fun stuff. Let's jump right into it. PlayOverwatch tweeted out, you'll get a kick out of this. Team up with your friends for summer games on August 9th. Now, obviously, this announces Lucioball. It announces summer games coming next week, Thursday, actually. And based on tweets from some of the other Twitters for Overwatch and Blizzard, we know that there will be a new stadium set in Korea, Busan, which is the second biggest city in South Korea. Also famous for the Overwatch Pro team named GC Busan, who won Apex Season 4, kind of destroying Lunatic High at the time. And many of those players went on to go play for, you guessed it, the London Spitfire, who just won the Overwatch League as well. So it's kind of cool how all these things pull together. But I don't know if you're like me, but getting Lucioball for the third year in a row doesn't seem to really have the oomph that I was hoping for in a new event. Of course, we're going to get new cosmetic items that are always lots of fun. The summer skins are often fun and transformative, which I'm always a big fan of. Like last year's McCree skin changes his voice line to say it's high tide. You know, things like that is just really funny, and I want way more of that. But if you'll indulge me in doing a little bit of Sherlock Holmes here, let's look at the language of the tweet, because this is important. Blizzard doesn't mince words with their marketing and what they want to focus on. Team up with your friends for summer games? Interesting. For example, compared to the last 2 years where they announced Lucioball, on your mark, get set, goal! Fun, cute, adorable, but nothing about teaming or friends, especially with the LFG feature coming out. Blizzard has sort of been changing gears to be more of a game that you play with friends, which was one of our biggest criticisms for, I don't know, the past 10 years or so, that there hasn't been enough systems or incentives in order to do so, but more importantly, at some point, I think we're getting social features with summer games. Of course, Jeff Kaplan announced already that we're going to be getting the next set of social features at the end of summer, which either could be code for the end of summer games or at the start of them, because really August 9th is towards the end of summer. According to Google, summer technically ends September 22nd. So more or less, in the next month or so, new social features are coming. And what could they be? Well, Jeff has seemed to heavily hint at clans or guilds in interviews in the past, or something like that. And though those as a concept are pretty good, I think the method of playing is what actually needs to come about, because teaming up for ranked is okay, but it starts to have diminishing returns as you rank up, because queue times get longer, the games get harder. Realistically, even though you can queue as a team, the ranked mode is designed and incentivizes playing solo or in a small group. So with that being the case, I would like the next social feature to promote weekend tournaments, or really any day of the week, but timed events where we as a community get on to participate in something. We've mentioned this in the past, and of course, Destiny does a thing like this with their multiplayer. They have limited time hardcore modes like trials, for example. I think mini tournaments that your clan or guild could play in would be really awesome. Toss some cosmetics at us for both participating and winning mini tournaments. That's something that I would want, but I want to hear what would you guys like to play. Something that I hear quite often, for example, is like a competitive playlist for Total Mayhem or something like that. Sure, why not? I think getting groups involved and having a thing, even if you just use LFG for it or your clan system or whatever, an event that we're getting on to play together would be really cool. Now back to the new game mode, or should I say the old game mode, Lucioball. The reason why I'm not as hyped for this now is that they really haven't shown any of the improvements yet. Last year, they did quite a few things to improve the balancing and make it a bit more of a streamlined experience. Of course, adding the ranked mode's really cool for those of you who want to play the sub game a bit more at a try-hard level. But I feel like they really missed an opportunity to utilize Hammond, aka Wrecking Ball, to make his own game mode. I mean, the guy is a ball that does gymnastics. Hammond bowling, or an obstacle course that he could go through to make use of that crazy movement. Heck, even get him involved in Lucioball somehow. I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe Lucio plays against the Hammond team. I don't know. Maybe one would be horribly unbalanced, but at this point, I just want to see newer things rather than the mode that we've played for the past 2 years each summer. Now, moving on to more practical Overwatch gameplay news. As a reminder, Hammond released on the 24th, which means he's going to go live into competitive play this coming Tuesday, the 7th, because they always make heroes live 2 weeks after their release. So the wrecking ball's coming in, boys and girls. You better prepare yourselves. But what I don't know is whether or not that Tuesday, which typically is patch day anyway, is going to include some of the PTR changes that we've seen, especially the big buffs to the support characters, namely Ana and Lucio, that either could come Tuesday or with the Summer Games patch, which might make a bit more sense. It depends whether they want to patch twice in a week to the main game, which they usually don't do, to be honest, or if they're just going to unlock Hammond on Tuesday with a hotfix, so allowing him to be pickable in ranked play, and then 2 days later comes in Summer Games, and very likely some of those further changes, because remember, Sombra got more buffs on the PTR, Hanzo got more nerfs, and of course the aforementioned support changes. I mean, we're supposed to be all hyped for Lucioball, but I'm just hyped for Lucio. Secretly, I don't think he's even going to be much better than he already is in the support slot, because there's so much power in other things, but I'm just excited for at least the ranked community to perceive Lucio as better with buffs coming to him, so I actually can play him when I have to play support. Yes, a completely selfish point of view, but as well, I do legit think Ana is going to be a heavy hitter with that big burst of health she gets from her ultimate. That stuff probably coming on Tuesday, but how much of it is hard to say because these different patches came at different times, so we'll have to wait and see how that works out. On to more fun news, cosplayers now will have a very quick shortcut to complete their D.Va cosplay, well, more precisely in 2019, I guess. Just today, Blizzard tweeted out this adorable D.Va pistol, which will be a fully functioning Nerf gun. Earlier in the year, they also announced a Reaper Nerf gun, both slated for 2019. I don't know if we're going to get all of the weapons together once they all release, or will they be staggered throughout the year, next year? I don't really know, but I will say, I think these two guns were a little bit more on the easy side for the Nerf creators to make. They're not as elaborate. I saw Dallas Fuel tweet a response to this that I thought was just hilarious, saying they can't wait for the Zarya version, which, yeah, exactly. How are you gonna do Zarya or Winston's gun? They're absolutely massive. Maybe there'll be a couple $100 in order to buy those. These smaller, reasonable Nerf-sized weapons seem to be a perfect fit. And what I really want is to get a Nerf grenade launcher that shoots the little Nerf balls up at an angle just like they work in the game. I know that's probably too much to ask. It is probably not going to arc and fall exactly like it does in the game, but as close as they can get to that, I'm buying. I'm sure BlizzCon next year is going to be filled with people shooting each other with Nerf guns. We won't get it for this year, unfortunately, but this is the official announcement. Calling your Overwatch fans, we're bringing our Nerf guns to the Anaheim Convention Center in 2019. No cosplayer is safe. I want a Junkrat grenade launcher, and I'm not looking where I'm shooting. Just like I do in actual ranked games. Okay, more news. Overwatch League announced that there are 2 new teams coming in for the 2019 season, Atlanta and Guangzhou. I hope I'm saying that right. Now there will be another Chinese team. The question still remains if they're going to attempt to make a Chinese roster, which I think, as we've learned so far, unfortunately, the Chinese region, even just historically, wasn't as competitive as some of the other regions in the Overwatch esports space. So much so that the Pacific region of contenders right now has full Korean rosters that are battling it out over there. But as we've seen with the Shanghai Dragons, they're not afraid to pick up Korean players in order to try to embolden their rosters, which I think is really important. I know a lot of people have this idealized vision where they just wish that the regional teams would have regional talent, but that doesn't work in any other organized sport that exists for a reason, because it turns out some people are just really good. And for example, there's barely any pro-British players, much less enough to make an elite team in London, for example, who of course, is a full Korean roster that ended up winning the Overwatch League recently. And as for Atlanta, it is owned by Cox Enterprises, which owns multiple companies, probably most famous for Cox Communications, which is quite a big buy-in. It's almost the American equivalent of SK Telecom, and more signs to show that the Overwatch League is far from going anywhere. There was rumors that there would be multiple teams getting added, so there may be more down the pipeline. Atlanta is a great esports city. It's where E-League is broadcasted from, who do televised Counter-Strike and Street Fighter, and I'll be interested to see if more European and Asian teams will be coming out because we already have quite a few North American teams. And Nate Nancer in the past has said in interviews that that's where they're looking to develop even more, but they require big buy-ins for this kind of stuff. So it isn't just the Overwatch League wanting to have a team in a certain city or region. It's also investors and the right investors that Blizzard's willing to work with to put them in France or Germany, other European countries. And hey, while we're on the Overwatch League, we actually made a bit of a mistake by using the creator posts on YouTube to warn that my analysis video of the Overwatch League Grand Finals was going to be running late that day. And turns out YouTube promotes posts more than videos. So many of you received the notification from the post saying the video was on its way more than the actual video. Feels bad, man. If you missed that upload, I'm going to be putting a link on a card that's clickable on screen now. Big, long, hour-and-a-half analysis. Very cool games. A lot of big plays, a lot of things to learn. You can check that out. Also leave it linked in the comments in the description as well. On to some Overwatch lore-related news. Last week, Michael Chu answered a few questions about Wrecking Ball. And this last question I thought was the most interesting. Are the mech battles like robots that the Junkers make, or are they mech suits and then the Junkers get into the arena and fight? Not sure on that part. Michael Chu answered, generally, the mechs are built out of stuff that is in Junkertown and the surrounding environments. In Wrecking Ball's case, it's scavenged parts that were built around Hammond's makeshift lunar escape pod, as you see in the origin story movie. Yeah, I've been saying it, man. Hammond is a legit badass. In fact, don't call him Hammond. He named himself Wrecking Ball. We're gonna have to respect that because this little guy made a badass mech out of scraps of his lunar escape pod. He ain't messing around. And speaking of lore and not messing around, Alyssa Wong announced on Twitter that she is the new writer on Overwatch, which is interesting. Does that mean we're going to be seeing a resurgence in Overwatch lore? If you remember, about a year ago, they stopped making the comics and the animated shorts. There hasn't been much progression and story building for quite some time, probably with the Overwatch League coming front and center, I suppose. But I take this move as a step in the direction to sort of rev up for more production in some of those areas. PlayStationLife.net lists out quite an impressive list of nominations and awards she's won for her speculative fiction, which makes me excited to see what Overwatch has coming now in the next year in the lore department. Guys, that's going to be everything for today's news roundup. If you did enjoy the video, please leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day. So you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Linked in the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.